and backup vocabulary in Dragon again, because just this week I had a customer call in, and I like to share these stories because it helps you for the future. She called in and she had not exported her Dragon profile in a good while,
She
and her user had become corrupted. And so I said, "So do you have an export?" And she said, "I think I do from November." I said, "Okay, well, we can use that." I said, "But let me go and check your Dragon, um, the Dragon folder." You remember how we were talking about the backup, how every Dragon user has a backup and a current? So I opened up her profile. Well, it would not open the profile really. So I opened up a different profile she had, which was just a backup. No, she didn't even have a backup. I created a new profile, but I didn't really go through all the steps. I just created one. The few minutes of just saying new and giving my name and reading that one paragraph. So I created that so that I could open Dragon, because Dragon would not even open with her profile. So I opened it with this new profile that I made, and I was able to, in the open new user profile, I was able to select her user and go to advanced and click on restore. And so, because I went and looked at her files in the File Explorer, and there was one that would take us back to February. So that was not a bad loss of time, whereas November's kind of far. So I said, well, let's see if this will work. So I did the restore, and it came right back up. So she was able to go from what yesterday was March 10th, only back to February 11th, which was a huge relief to her because November was so far off. So I'm going to show you today what exactly I did. Like, I'm going to go look with you and show you the backup. I'm going to create the fake new user real quick and show you how you would restore, so that you always have this video that you can go back and look at. Because when I tell you, people get so upset when they think that they have to start from zero. And if they had done anything as hard as what you all are doing right now, they would be crying like little babies, because you guys are doing such great hard work. And most people, what they do is they learn what you guys are learning in 8 weeks. They learn over years. And so they really don't have all the information you have to begin with. So they tend to mess up a lot more because they don't put the time into getting educated before they start. So when they get the product, they're basically already working. So they have no time to learn. And a lot of them don't dedicate much time. And so you guys, what y'all are doing is just so much more advantageous, because you start knowing what you're doing. And that is always a benefit. So let us begin. I am going to go ahead and share my screen.
Adria.
Michelle, are you speaking to me? I think I hear a little Michelle. You're not nearly as loud as you normally are, Michelle. Is your mic on? What you see in Word is what we're going to talk about how to clean up documents. And so last week when we ran Learn from Specific Documents, I mentioned to you all why we do it. I'm going to recap. Number one, when we give Dragon these files and say, please read this, Dragon scans the whole document and it says, let me see if there are any words in this document that are not in my vocabulary. If they are, I'm going to take them out and I'm going to put them in this list that I'm going to then present to you once I've read all of these documents. So this list represents mostly proper nouns, okay? It's going to be people's names, unique names. It's, that aren't in the vocabulary already. It's going to be business names that aren't in the vocabulary already. It's going to be your cities if we don't add it via the list, right? And we're going to do that we're going to add those lists that I sent to you yesterday. Because when we first talked about adding the lists, I realized that they were all uppercased. And we certainly don't want every street name, every address to come up in all caps when you dictate it, because that would mean that you would have to lowercase it. We don't want that. We want it to look right immediately. So I changed all of those to sentence case. And so that should help you if you do have, and forgive me because I just don't know, so you have to educate me here. In the States, on page 2 of the transcript is the appearances. So that would be the name and address of every attorney that's in the case today. So we call that the appearances, meaning that the attorney is appearing before the court and he is listed his name, who he represents, his company, the firm name. If he works for the state or the judiciary, it would be representing the judiciary. And then email, phone number, it's contact information for the attorneys. You may not have that. We do. And so that's one of the things that we will definitely come up, all the names, the addresses, the businesses. And the other thing that's going to come up that's going to offend you at first, but don't be offended, none of us are perfect, is words that you have misspelled or words that someone who has produced this transcript has made some mistakes. And so there are some misspellings. There's not going to be a lot of those because transcribers and court reporters and scopists, the really good ones, you all have something in common, and that is your need for perfection, your need to have everything right. And that's a good problem to have, should I say. It's great for the job that you do. But we are only human. And so sometimes when we are doing correction, we might spell a word wrong. If we do, then it comes up again, spelled wrong. And so some of the things that Dragon will find are misspellings, but that will be the smallest majority of words that you see. The majority of the words that you see are going to matter to you. So it could be a medical, what's the word I'm looking for? A procedure that's new, that was not official basically when Dragon's last update of their vocabulary came out. So you may have to add that medical procedure. It may be a new drug. There are always new drugs coming out. And so it could be the name of a new drug. It could be, I don't know if you guys have the same thing as we do here, but when a drug first comes out, it has a manufacturer's name. So there's a really great asthma drug called Singulair. I've been on it for a long, long time because I have asthma. Well, it used to be that there was no generic for it. And so it was $50 a month. Finally, a generic comes out and everybody's saying, praise the Lord, because now we're only paying $7 for it a month. But the name is different. So there's Singulair and there's like Modestine or something. That's a generic and it's new. So those generics, you're going to have to add to your vocabulary if you have medical cases that come up. Okay, so these are some of the things you're going to see when it's scanning, doing learn from specific documents.
Also made up words. We have people who make up words. As a matter of fact, I made up a word on Facebook yesterday, and one of my court reporter friends says, I have to add that to my vocabulary.
Oh, what word did you make up?
Crap ton, because we were talking about the hand sanitizer recipe. And I have so much aloe vera. I said I have a crap ton of aloe vera. What I really wanted to say, I didn't say. But so she said she was going to add that to her vocabulary.
That is so true. That is really a wonderful mention on Michelle's part, because I don't know about you guys. I find that I know that my girlfriend who's from Trinidad and her mom speak beautiful English, and I don't think they use a whole lot of made up words. But here in the States, people just love to make up words. And I mean, left, right, and center, people are making up words. So crap ton is Michelle's new made up word. And that is something you're going to hear here in the States. And there are all sorts of things. And it tends to be regional. You know, and then, of course, it spreads out. But regionally, we have, what's the term?
Colloquialisms?
Yes, colloquialisms. Yes. And things like that. So they're going to be here where we are, a lot of our colloquialisms have a mixture of French words in them because we're French. Our people are French. And so we tend to throw some Cajun words in there, which Cajun words are a mixture of French, Native American, it's a little bit of Haitian, Creole language in there, and Spanish. So it's an odd mixture of colloquialisms we have there. And I think most colloquialisms are I think they do have something to do with the type of culture that you come from. And it does tend to throw in words that are mixed with English. So over here, I'm going to go all the way to the top of my document here. This is the same document that I used last week for my indexing example. So it doesn't matter what the transcript looks like. It only matters that this is what we call formatted. What you're seeing is formatted. Now, so the very first thing we do when we are turning a document into a cleaned up document is we reduce it to a text-only file. So we do File, Save As, and instead of saving it as a rich text format, I'm going to click here, and I'm going to choose Text Only. Here we go, plain text. And I'll hit Save. Then we remove I've already done this, but we remove everything before the proceedings. And then if we do Control End, we make sure we remove everything after the proceedings. And that means like the certificates after and the caption pages before. I'm going to do Control Home to go back to the top of the document. Now, let me bring back up my little rules. So we have reduced it. We generally will rename it to what it's about. So I would read a little bit and try to figure out, what is this specific case about? And the reason we want to save it for what it's about is because the names of a case really are so unimportant. We don't care at all about the names of the people in the case. As a matter of fact, we remove those for privacy's sake, right? We remove the names, we replace the names with John Smith, or whatever, just a not real name. We can even call it the witness, the defendant. Names are not important. But what it's about is important, because if you are about to do a whole list of audio files for one trial, and during that one trial, let's say it was a drug interaction trial. So someone took a drug prescribed by a doctor, and that drug did something horrible to them. And so they're suing the pharmaceutical company, let's say. So what you want to save it as is pharmaceutical or pharma drug interaction. Because the reason we save it with what it's about is because should we be about to do a case that's all about medicine, then we would want to take all of our medical documents and run those through before the case. Why? Because it'll have medical terms in it, and it'll put all of that information high up in the vocabulary, and it'll give you a chance to actually have better recognition, because you're saying, hey, be familiar with these terms and this context right now. Okay? So that's why we rename it. Now, we want it to look like it would look if we dictated it in Dragon alone instead of using Transcriptionist. So what we're going to do is we are going to find all of the Q&As. This should say Q. And we're going to replace them with the asterisk A asterisk and the asterisk Q asterisk. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to do normally I do Control F, but I will do find and replace. And I'm going to say find what. So this is the easiest way to do it, is just to highlight what you want to find and do Control C, and then come over here and do Control V as in Victor. And so this is looking for A and tab or A and spaces. And I want it to replace with asterisk A asterisk, asterisk A asterisk space. And I'm going to do replace all. And it made 829 replacements. Now I'm going to do Control Home to go back to the top of the document. And I'm going to change the A to a Q in both places and replace all. 855 changes. And then if I bring up my little document again, now I need to find the court. So I'm going to do, I'm just going to find it right now. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to highlight what's in front of it as well. It doesn't seem to want to do that. I'm going to just do the court in all caps. And I'm going to replace it with asterisk, speaker, 1, asterisk, and space. And if you click on more, you can even do match case. That way it will not see the court mentioned in the text and replace it. We only want the speaker replaced. That's why I did match case. So I'm going to do replace all. 146 replacements. Very good. Now I'm going to go and get, let's see what's next. Number 2 is Mr. Tascam. So I'm going to highlight Mr. Tascam. Control C to copy. Control V to paste. I'm going to change speaker number 1 to speaker number 2. Replace all. 55 replacements. Now Mr. Manson. Control C. Control V. And change the 2 to a 3 and replace all. 62 replacements. And then I think the last thing I need to replace is the witness. So I'm going to look for the witness. Change the speaker 3 to speaker 4 and replace all. 71 replacements. Okay. So now I've actually done all of that. And what I want to do now is I want to remove the formatting. So I can actually, I'm going to deselect match case now. And in the find what field, I'm going to go to down here where you see format and special. Now remember, you have to click on more to see this. Okay. I'm going to click on special and I'm going to highlight paragraph mark. And I'm going to replace the paragraph mark with 1 space. Replace all. And now it's looking much more like I want it to look. Now, let's see. I'm going to also go and format tab character with 1 space. I'm going to replace all there. So I've got all the tabs out. Now I'm going to look for maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. Replace all, 6. So I'm just trying to get the extra spaces out of the document. I'm now looking for 3 spaces.
Adria, the white space takes care of all of the extra spaces.
So I should go to white space.
Yes. And just make sure, yeah. And this can take some time based on how long the document is, the white space especially.
Yeah, you can see right at the bottom. Let me see if I can. I can't. You can barely see it, but it says Word is replacing. And press escape to cancel. It's got 109 pages, so it's not too much.
If it's a 400-page document, it can seem like the computer is locked up. Just have to be patient.
So you do white space, Michelle, instead of doing spaces, tabs, and paragraph marks?
Not paragraph marks, just the tabs and spaces.
Tabs and spaces it'll remove.
Right. Okay, and just so you guys know, you see this process, it's repetitive. And I'm sorry, Adria, if I'm overstepping, replacing the white space, replacing the paragraph marks, replacing Q&A is repetitive. So there are instructions in the manual, or we can send you an email about creating a macro that will replace the Q&A, replace this special stuff to where you would only need to focus on the speakers in the document. And that's what a lot of people do to make this a little bit easier.
Yeah, and that's very possible. Very easy to do. Have any of you ever created macros in Word? No?
Good, Natasha.
Natasha has?
She has. Yep.
Good, awesome. Michelle, do you want to take a minute and show them how to do the macro, or I mean, I can do it too, but
We could, if you have after this is done, if you have another document, we can maybe, what I like to do is create a macro that gets the stuff that you're going to see every time, like Q&A and the court, or if there's a bailiff or, you know, the people in the court that you see every time. But once this is done, I'll have Adria, I can walk through it while you do. You can be my Vanna and I'll be Pat Sajak.
I don't know if I have another, I guess I can use this one.
Yeah. I mean, I can too. I just need to find a transcript. Oh, I have there's a whole document on the S drive of hold on, let me look. Sorry, babbling.
Ones that need to be cleaned.
Let me see if I have any in the topic file repository.
I should be able to just close this and not save it.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So this case is regarding a judge that, the reason I'm saying this, let's see, this is save as, this is a judge that's being accused of racism. And so I'm going to browse and save this to my C drive. AudioScribe has a topic files directory. And whenever you back up SpeechCat, if you save your documents here, these documents will be backed up as well, meaning that you can take them and move them forward with you. So I'm going to go to my clean text, and this is a Louisiana document. So I'm going to put judge recusal. And I'm going to change it to plain text. And I'm going to do save. Okay. And I'm going to click on OK. Then I'm going to remove the cover pages. I'll do Control End and remove the certificate pages. Okay, so what we would do at this point is we would go to
It's on view, Michelle.
okay.
To the right. There you go.
I was looking, okay, go to view, and then you'll see macros. You click on the down arrow and we'll record. It asks you to name it. So I'm going to call this clean. And click on OK. And what you're going to see is you're going to see your cursor now has a cassette tape. That's indicating to you that it is actually recording. And so here, the court is someone that we're going to see every time. So we would highlight the court with the colon and do Control C, just as Adria was doing. Control C to copy, Control H to find and replace. And then I will paste the court here and replace this with asterisk speaker 1 asterisk space, and then do replace all. Okay, because this is a macro that I'm going to be using again and again, I'm not going to replace all of these speakers because I will not be seeing all of these speakers time and again. So I'm going to scroll down to where the Q&A starts, and I'm going to highlight the Q period and the tab like this, do Control C to copy, paste this into the find what, and replace with asterisk Q asterisk space. And remember to always put the space after it. And it's going to find them all, and just click on OK. And then I'll just come in here and change the A, the Q to an A, and then replace all. Now, at this point, I've replaced the 3 things that I wanted to replace as far as markers go. So I'm going to come to More, go to Special, find Paragraph Mark, replace it with a space, and do Replace All. And then I will come down to Special and look for white space and make sure I have that 1 space there. I'm not going to add another space, and do Replace All. Now, I do want to say something about this transcript. You'll see that it's in all caps. I probably would not run this through my vocabulary builder because I don't use all caps. So you should make sure that you're running documents in the same case that you're going to be using. But it's a good way to show you how to make the macro. So I say yes to this. And once this is done, I close out of the Find and Replace. I like to do Control Home to get back to the top of the document. And then I go to Macro and Stop Recording. Now, I've created the macro, and you saw how easy that was. So the next step when you create a macro is to put it on your toolbar so that you can easily access it. So I'm going to go to File and Options, and I'm going to go to the Quick Access Toolbar. The Quick Access Toolbar is what you see here in blue above the normal menu. That's where my Quick Access Toolbar is. So I'm going to go to Choose Commands From, click on the down arrow, and go to Macros. And it'll show me all of the macros that I have created. And you can see I do this a lot. So I'm going to choose the one that I just named Clean. I'm going to add it to the quick ribbon. Then I'm going to modify it. I'm going to modify the button.
Just a little push pin.
There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to change this name to just Clean. And actually, I'm going to do TNT Clean just to, so it's a little bit different than my other ones. And I click on OK. And now here's the macro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this document real quick. And now I want to show you how easy it is to open a document and run the macro. So let me open this document again.
You didn't make removing the pages top and bottom part of the macro?
No, because you never know how many cover pages there are going to be and certificate pages. So I always leave that up to the, do you think it's a good idea to put it in there?
Well, when they have the word proceedings there, you can do that. And if they have the words there, matter concluded, then you can use, you can do a find and replace, which will get rid of it super easily,
Yeah.
And only what you need. But if they're not going to have the title proceedings and the title matter concluded, then it's not so easy to do.
Right. So what I would say at this point, before you run the macro that I just created, is I typically come in and I replace the other speakers that are there. So I do Control H and put Mr. Gilbo here and do because this is not part of my macro.
You can also create a macro for each speaker if you'd like. That way, if the speakers come up again, you've already created a macro to make it go away.
Yeah. What I find is if I'm working with someone in court who sees the same ones over and over again, it would be beneficial to create a macro that cleans up all the speakers.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I've cleaned up my speakers and now I'm going to run the macro. So if I just click on the push pin, it's going to come in and ask me, okay. Sorry, I had done I scrolled down vertically, so I took that out of my macro and now it will work. And so basically it takes, once you create the macro, it just takes a matter of minutes to do the macro, and it makes it easier to do the cleanup. And then I'll do File, Save As, because I forgot to do that earlier. And that's it. And we do have instructions on how to create a macro. We have a FAQ. So if you're interested in that, we can definitely send it to you. And that's it for the macro.
Very good. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Okay, do you want to talk about Dragon, or do you want me to go ahead and take care of that? The Dragon, the nuance folder, and what I was talking about earlier.
I can. Let me just pull up the, can y'all still see my screen?
Yes. So Michelle's going to the nuance folder via the File Explorer. So.
Okay. So here.
Go ahead.
Okay. So if you go to, let me close out of this and I'll get back to it. If you go to File Explorer, which is the Manila folder, and you go to my PC or this PC, find the Windows C drive. You'll go to the Program Data folder. This is where your AudioScribe data exists, and it's also where your Dragon data exists. So if we go down to Nuance, and we'll go to Naturally Speaking 15, you'll have a folder called Users, and this is where your user profiles are stored. In that folder, you'll have a separate folder for each individual user that you have. And so Michelle Mask Sound Blaster Play is my primary mask user. And so in that subfolder, I have the current folder, which has a date of 3/4. And then I have a backup folder, which has a date of 2/5. And what that indicates to me is that the last backup that I have for this user profile was from February 5th, which is about a month before the current user. And so what this would indicate to me is that if my user got corrupted, I could then come into Dragon. Just bear with me as it opens. I just wanted to take a look inside of this. But basically what I can do is if there was a problem with this user profile, I could go to, and this is asking me to learn from specific documents, which is what we were cleaning up transcripts for. So if I go to Profile, Manage User Profiles, and I highlight this user profile and go to Advanced, no, I'm sorry, go to Properties. This information should be similar to what I saw in the folders. This is actually telling me that the last backup I did was on 2.5 and the last save was on 2.5. And so with that information, if I click on OK, and if there was a problem, I could go to Advanced and Restore. And when it tells you that it has to be closed, it'll close the user profile for me. And what it's going to do is it's going to bring up a profile restore, and it gives you the information about when it can restore to. You'll notice that I can restore to before I optimize my user profile, which I did on 3.4, or from the last full backup that I did, which was on 2.5. And so if I clicked on this and clicked on restore, it would restore my user profile to 2.5. And this can take some time. It didn't take long. And that's it. And just so you know, also this folder, we talk about, I'm going to close out of this, we talk about exporting your user profile on a regular basis. And we're very adamant about that. There have been times when we have customers who have not followed that protocol and have not exported their user profile. If something, we've had people's computers crash, their computers crash, they don't have a Dragon user export. And so if the hard drive is still usable, well, if the data is still accessible, we're able to try to access their user by getting the information out of this folder so that they don't have to start all over again. And so it's kind of important to know where the profile is. And if something were to happen, you'll say, hey, Michelle, where can I get my my transcriptionist data and my Dragon user profile data? We say it's here, here. Usually it's an IT person who's trying to retrieve your data. They'll get that information, put it on the new computer, and sometimes it'll be like you haven't lost anything within our software or Dragon. So does anybody have any questions about that?
That's good stuff, Michelle. Thank you.
Thanks. Do we want to now run Vocabulary Builder on what we just did?
Yes, go ahead and do that.
Do they perhaps have any files they can run through? Not yet?
No, the judiciary would not share any files for us to clean up for them.
Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open my user profile again. And what I'm about to do, the learn from specific documents can be done in Dragon or it can be done in Transcriptionist. And see, it's telling me again that it needs to learn from specific documents, meaning that I haven't done it. I think this is a new user profile I created. So what I'm going to do here, I have my user profile open, and I'm going to go to Vocabulary and learn from specific documents. Now, and I'm sorry if I'm beating a dead horse, but Vocabulary Builder is very important because of the context that Dragon uses. It learns word usage, it learns new words. All of these things will help your recognition be better. Hopefully. There are some times that it can cause problems. And we suggest that when you run documents through, that you try to run documents that have been saved as TXT files versus Word or WordPerfect documents. Because when you have a WordPerfect or rich text format, there's formatting, there's graphics and things like that are in the file. And you just don't know if those things can corrupt your user. So we try to be adamant about using text files. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to check find unknown words and check adapt to writing style. The writing style is what helps it learn the context. The find unknown words is what helps it find words that might be local to where you are, that might not exist where I am. So I'm going to click on next. And here at the Add Documents folder, I'll do Add Folder. I'm going to go to the C drive to Topic Files. This is the place where I mentioned SpeechCat backs up, and this is where we like to store our files so that they are backed up with SpeechCat. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go to My Clean Text, and I'm going to run the document that I just created, even though I said I wouldn't do it because it has all caps, but I'm going to go ahead and run it anyway. So these are some documents that I have that are based on Louisiana, transcripts that I've gotten. And you can add more than one folder. So I'm going to click on Add Folder again. And we have a folder here called Divorce. I'm going to go ahead and select that one. I'm going to click on Add Folder again. I'm going to add General Litigation, and that'll be enough. That's 3 different types of things. I'm going to click on Next. And depending on how many documents you have and how big those documents are, this could take a few minutes. It's important to be patient and if I could whistle, I would.
Michelle.
Yes.
When you're done with that, we need to do import list of words.
Okay.
So you may want to go and download the list of words.
Was that okay? Did you put it in the Skype thread?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yesterday.
I love being able to go find documents.
I know, it's awesome.
So I need all of them, right?
Address line 2, address line 3, streets, and Trinidad and Tobago. You might want to create a new user just for this.
Okay.
While we're waiting, I'd like to just mention that for 1 year after class, you guys can Skype us and ask your questions and request that we dial in, and we will do that. There are a limited number of support dial-ins that are allowed. So once you run out of support, you still have, or I should say dial-in support and Skype support, you still have support via our forum and our Facebook page if you'd like to use the Facebook page. The forum has all sorts of great information, and you can also go and post problems there and give it a few days and we'll get there and answer it. And that is free support. So when you no longer have support incidents available that you can get help via Skype and dial in. You still have free support via the forum and via email. You can email us at no charge, but Skype and dial-ins are considered paid support. So after your year, that's no longer available to you. But there are a lot of other options, and we want you to know that they're there and know how to use them. So do remember that.
Okay, so we're ready to move forward. We click on next. And what you're going to see next is add words to vocabulary. I want you to notice that not everything is checked here because you don't want to add all of these words to your vocabulary. You want to be in control of adding them to the vocabulary. So first of all, I see my last name, Gilbo. And so I definitely want to add that to the vocabulary because I say it quite a lot. And so basically what you're going to do here when you're presented with this word list is you want to go through the list and add anything that you think you're going to see on a regular basis. You need to be cautious. Adria mentioned earlier about misspelled words. If you see a word that you think you're going to use, make sure it's spelled correctly because you don't want to add a misspelled word to your vocabulary. Also take anything that is spelled in all caps, I would not add to my vocabulary. So I'm going to go through the list for a little bit. Oh, one other thing, everything is sorted by frequency. And so what I would say to that is when you're going through the list, we know that time is important. When I start getting down into the ones and the twos, I'm a little, if I don't have time, I just completely ignore them because those are usually maybe misspellings or in the wrong capitalization are words that maybe are made up. I saw one that said catastrophizing or whatever. That looks like a made up word. So unless it's something I would see on a regular basis, I would not add it. So I'm going to go back to the top. And just remember, you know, you start at the top and the more frequent words like Raymondville, this may be a town that's near me that I would want to add. Recusation, I think this has to do with recusing, and that's what the transcript is about. So I'm going to do that. Bro Bridge, this is where I'm located. So I definitely want to add that to my vocabulary.
Quasi-criminal. I love that.
That would be a made up word, right?
Yep.
Right, Diane? I'm going to add it just because it's fun.
I would think so, but it may also be hyphenated.
Ah. It probably would be.
Double click on it.
Hmm?
If you double click on it, I think it allows you to change it. So you could literally go in there and put in your hyphen if it is a hyphenated word.
You can even make it lowercase and you can change the spoken form. I did
Right.
not know this. I just learned something new. Thank you, Adria.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm going to do that and add it. And one thing you will notice, I don't know if in your country they allow people to curse, you use cuss words on the record, but in Dragon does not have any cuss words in it. So when you're running Vocabulary Builder, and if you see cuss words, you may want to add them and have to say them because they will be said in the courtroom. But Dragon was designed for professionals who don't cuss. So anyway, so I've added a couple of words, and I think I'm going to move on for time's sake. I'm going to click on next. And on this next screen, what it's going to do is it's going to present me with the list of words that I checked while in the main list. And here I want to click on check all and train. Now, the reason I want to train these words, you're putting these words into your vocabulary now. And in my opinion, it's a good idea for you to give it an acoustic signature before you add it to the vocabulary. That way, Dragon has a better chance of understanding it down the road. So I did check all, and then I'm going to do train. I'm going to click on train. And then when I click on train, I'm going to be presented with each word, and I'm going to say it as it's presented.
Once.
Great, yes.
You can see that after she says it, you can, when it goes green, that's her saying it. And then when it's yellow, that's just Dragon sort of waiting for input.
And when it's done, I click on save. And I click on next. And what it's going to do is it's going to save the writing style to my Dragon user profile. And this may take a few minutes as well. And after you're done, we want to make sure we save user profile. So I'll remind you about that when this is done. But in the meantime, is there anything else you want to talk about, Adria?
I'd just like for you to real quick explain what a writing style is to them.
Okay. Well, the writing style, so Dragon is designed for the professional individual. It's designed for people who write letters. Like if I'm a businessman and I want to write a letter to Adria and say like, hello, Adria, how are you today? I wanted to tell you about this great new product we have on the market called Transcriptionist Period. It is a great program that you can take audio and redictate it and produce a transcript, blah, 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 blah. Thank you for your time. I look forward to hearing from you. Sincerely, Michelle Gilbo, audio scribe. You know, that's what Dragon is designed for, that and people with disabilities. So the vocabulary is not conducive to court transcripts, which is what you're going to be doing. And so by the writing style, running documents through that have question and answers, that have, would you state for your name for the record? My name is blah, blah, blah. Where do you live? You know, it's going to learn the context in which you're speaking so that Dragon will have a better probability of getting that right when you're dictating. And so vocabulary building, you know, we've talked about correction mechanism being the most important Dragon tool to increasing your recognition. Well, this is what we consider the second most important thing because they go, this helps with the context. And so I also saw on the list while I'm talking on this and on my soapbox, Dragon has two vocabularies. It has an active vocabulary and it has a backup vocabulary. And the active vocabulary has about 30 to 40,000 words because most people, like in the, Dragon has a team of linguistics people on who help design Dragon. And most people only use about 30,000 words in their everyday vocabulary. And so what Dragon does when you learn from specific documents, when you do training, is it takes these words that you're using and it modifies, like if, like for example, my last name Gilbo is actually in the vocabulary, but because I haven't used it yet and it's not a very popular word, it was not showing that it was there, and also Row Bridge. And so after we're done with this, I'll show you how it looks in vocabulary editor because it will not be, words that you've added are typically, they have a red star next to them if they had not been in the vocabulary, whereas words that were pulled from the back of vocabulary have a star of a different color indicating that it was in the vocabulary. It just had to pull it from the back of vocabulary. And so what Dragon does as you're using it and correcting and running vocabulary builder, it's modifying those things based on the usage that you do. And one other thing I want to say about cleaning up these documents, you guys are going to be working for the same court. If you clean up documents, guess what? You can share them. That is such an awesome resource because if you're going to be doing the same type of work, you know, let's say you all agree to do 5 transcripts a month to clean up and you share those resources. Well, that's That's 150 documents that you can run through Vocabulary Builder. So I'm going to click on next to this, and it's going to tell me that it's finished. It tells me how many new words it found. It tells me that 5 were added to my vocabulary, and it was adapted for my writing style. I click on finish, and then I'm going to go to profile, save user profile. Now, I do want to go into Vocabulary Editor when this is done saving, and I just want to show you how those words look that I've just added. So you see how Brobridge has the green arrow next to it? That's indicating that it pulled that word from the back of vocabulary into my main vocabulary. And there is Gilbo as well. Let's see. Recusation. And I bet quasi-criminal. You see, this one was added as a new word because it was not in the vocabulary. Not that this is where we're getting into the geek stuff that Diane loves. Diane's one of my resident geek reporters because she likes all this stuff. But it's just important to know when you think, you know, some people say, well, you work with Dragon, they know who you are. Why isn't your name in the vocabulary? Well, have any of you heard my last name before me? No? Yeah, that's why. So that's it for the vocabulary editor. Now, Adria wanted me to go through importing a word list. So by importing a word list, you're taking, Adria created these documents for you that have TNT city names. Do you want to say something about it, Adria, about what they are? No?
Sure. I mean, there's street names. I went and looked up cities in Trinidad. So one of them I think is cities. One of them is address line number 2 and address line number 3. And on as far as mailing goes, and so I looked that up as well. And then I made them sentence case because that's the way we would use them in a transcript.
Okay.
So I just basically use the web to go and find all of this information and turn it into lists that we could use to import for you.
And what that's going to do, this, like Vocabulary Builder, brings that stuff to the forefront, pulling it out of the back of vocabulary if it exists there, so that Dragon will understand it better. So I'm going to go to vocabulary and import list of words or phrases. Now, if we wanted to, we can preview the list of unknown words. And let me ask you, Adria, when you're bringing in lists that are specific for them that you want them to use, would you do this?
Yes.
I believe this will give you the option to train them before you put them into your vocabulary, which is important. Right now, you might say, well, I don't have a whole lot of my own words, but as time goes on, your word list is going to grow exponentially, and trying to remember which words you need to go in and train can be difficult. So training them before you put them in is always the best option. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click on next. I'm going to click on add file. In this, you'll notice this screen is similar to the other one, but the difference is you can't bring in a whole folder here. You have to bring in each file, select each file individually. So I'm going to go to topic files, and I'm going to find my TNT word list, and I'm going to bring in, let's see if it'll let me bring all 4. Ah, it did. Okay. So I was able to bring in all 4 documents that Adria sent you guys. And I'm going to click on next. It's going to analyze them. Now it's telling me that
the streets are not.
It's not a valid word. Okay, and when you're making lists, I'll tell you some known things that can cause problems. And I don't know if that's the case for this document, but you can't have 2 consecutive spaces in a word. So if it's like bamboo space number 2, and it might be after number 2, you can't have 2 consecutive spaces. That's not one limitation. The second limitation is that any word and every line in the document is considered one word. It cannot have more than 99 characters. So we're going to go ahead and pull these other 3 in, and then we'll go back and look at that document and see what the problem might be. Is that okay?
Perfect.
So I'm going to click on next. It's going to bring up our word list for us. Now, this is a list that Adria made for you. So these are things that are going to be important for you.
Maybe.
Maybe.
They know better than I do if, a road was renamed, or it's not spelled right, or it won't come up in their transcript. They know that more than we do.
Is I, is that like the way we say I?
It sure does sound like what we say.
Do you say that when you're hurt? Yes. We say that too. We have more in common than we knew. Right?
We need to put that in our vocabulary.
Yeah, except we spell it a little bit different. Well, I mean, I guess we make up our spelling, to be honest with you. So we would do check all if we wanted to add them all.
There are a lot of words.
Okay, I'm not going to train. I'm going to click on next, but I'm not going to train all of these words because that would take too much time.
While, right?
Actually, I don't think it's given me an option to train them. Or maybe it will. There we go. And then I would need to check all and train all. But I'm going to uncheck all. I'll train just a couple. And the training process is the same as what we had in Learn from Specific Documents. So I'm going to do save. Next. And finish. And what do we do when we're done?
Save.
Save user profile. If you don't do save user profile,
poof,
the words won't be there. And this has happened to a few people when they're bringing in their markers, which you know how important your markers are. So that's it.
One thing that I'd like to mention to you all is that you can open up those word lists and you can go through them yourself, and you can delete things that you do not feel should be there. So you can certainly do that. Michelle's going to go ahead and open one. And so you can go through and say, oh, well, this is a duplicate, this is a duplicate, this is a duplicate. Delete your duplicates. There are some things that you probably don't have to put in there. Like, for instance, a lot of the roads will have a road, street, east, west after them. So when that's the case, you certainly could just add bamboo, or you could, if bamboo number 2 main road is a thing, and I don't know if it's a duplicate that was the problem or the number sign.
No, there was 2 spaces.
Two spaces.
There was 2 spaces between 2 and main.
So would you just do a Control H and find two spaces and replace with one to make sure that none of that exists.
That's a good idea. So, and there were 24 replacements. So chances are that's why.
Okay. So it was not but like, look, if you look at Calcutta Settlement Road 1, there's 3 of those.
Right.
So you would want to go in there and you'd want to delete the duplicates. You could even, as I said, delete, road number 1, road number 2, road number 3, road number 4, because and probably Calcutta's already in there too. So it would probably come out anyway. And the next one's probably Calcutta Settlement Road. Just like lower, you see it, like that's maybe a shortened form of the address. And there are also blank spaces in the list. So you can definitely go through there and edit before you add to your vocabulary if you'd like.
And it's a good idea to get familiar with that, because you want to bring in things into your vocabulary that are going to help you.
Right.
So it's taking accountability for the list and putting in what you need.
Right.
And a good idea might be some of the last names that are in around where you are.
Yes.
I'm going to save this.
Sure.
Because we're not going to clean up. Do you want to clean up the whole file with them on here?
No. I just wanted to express to them that there's a lot of that in here, and I haven't had a chance to go through the whole thing because it's an extensive list.
Okay.
So the other thing that I want to talk about again, Michelle, is when something goes wrong.
Okay, so for example, I just brought in this word list with your TNT list, and let's say I notice a decrease in my accuracy. Now, I did not back up my user profile before we did this, and if you're going to do something major, like, for example, I had run the acoustic optimizer, I always recommend before running the acoustic optimizer that you do an export of your Dragon user profile, so that if it doesn't improve it and it makes it worse, you have a place to go back to. So let's say that I did this stuff today and I'm not pleased with my recognition. So I do not have a user profile exit. Well, maybe I do. There's a couple of different things you could do. Let's see. So first of all, what I'll do is I'll restore from a backup. So let's say here's my user profile. I will go to properties. The properties here within Dragon will let me know when's the last time I saved. Now notice the last backup, it's not available because this is, I just restored this user from a previous, and so there is no backup to restore from. Let me see what happens when I try that. If I go to Advanced and Restore, it's going to close my user profile. I'm going to proceed. And the only choices I have are going back to when I completed the new user profile, or before I did optimizing my user profile. So I'll go ahead and choose the most recent one and restore. And I'm going to say yes. Now what that means is everything I just did today, all of the learn from specific documents that I did, All of the words that I brought in and I trained will not be in this vocabulary. So you have to remember that when you do a restore or you import from a backup, anything that you've done since that point will be gone. But it's better than having a user that's not working. So now that was restoring from a backup. What I'm going to do now is show you how to import, because there are multiple ways you can protect yourself and recover. So that was doing a restore from Dragon without using any external export that you have done previously. Now I'm going to go to Profile, Manage User Profiles, and I'm going to go to Advanced and Import. Now, in my documents is where I typically back up my Dragon user profiles, maybe. Here we go. They're on my Dropbox. So here's my Dragon V15 users. And as you can see, I've got quite a few users. And here is, here's one. I'm going to just bring this one in. I'm going to click on OK. And there's the user profile that I just brought in. And so I would close out of this, open the user. And of course, this user was created, I believe, with a different USB device. So I may get an, oh, nope. So you would, before you want to try to use the user in Transcriptionist, you want to open it up here, make sure it opens properly. If by chance it was using a different USB device, then you would have to change your dictation source. But luckily, this was using the same one, so I'm good. I'm able to close out of here and my user profile is ready to go.
Michelle, someone asked that we talk a little bit about written form and spoken form.
Okay.
Just, I suppose, you know, the difference, the primary difference between the written form and the spoken form, and when they are going to see each. And then there was another question. Natasha said she seems to get a noise when she adds a new word. And I'm concerned that perhaps she might have a corrupted user. What do you think?
Where does the noise emanate from, Natasha? Is it coming from your mask or is it coming from your headset?
It's coming from Dragon. But she said it's when she tries to add a new word.
Okay.
Train or add a new word. That could be corruption.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Her.
It's not letting you add any new words?
Natasha, does it let you add the new word? So she is able to add the word. Does it give you a warning or a message at all? No warnings. Okay.
Okay. All right. When I'm going to add words. I like to go to I like to show my custom words while I'm doing that. Don't ask me why. It basically, I can look at the list and make sure what I'm adding is not already there. So let me close out and show you how I got to this point. I go to vocabulary, open vocabulary editor, and at the bottom where it says display, I'll show custom words only. And this is going to show you your markers and anything that you have added to it. Okay, so I'm going to click on add. And what's something you want me to add, Adria?
Why don't you add the R-I-I-I?
How do you spell it?
I think that that's totally up to interpretation. I thought theirs was actually quite good. I mean, it was very phonetic.
Like that?
Yeah, that looks good to me. And notice that the written form is always going to be the first thing, you guys, on the left, the written form. The spoken form is going to always be the second one on the right. And notice that while she's using hyphens in the written form on the left, she is not using it on the right, because Dragon does not like hyphens in the spoken form.
And I also don't want to say the hyphens, so.
Right. Well, I guess that's probably why it doesn't like it there, because normally we're not going to say it, huh?
Right.
And one thing that you need to pay attention to is Dragon also does not like you to use the number. So like, let's say you were going to do I 3. Well, you would not write a numeric 3. You would write out THREE. And that's just Dragon's preference. We used to always use the numeric numbers in the spoken form. And only with Dragon 14 or 15 did Dragon start having a problem with that. So when you use a number in your spoken form, please spell it out. Okay? Go ahead, Michelle.
And we want to make sure we train the pronunciation of the new word. So I'll click on add. It's saying the word doesn't exist, and that's good. That means there's nothing to conflict with it. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay.
I love that word.
Okay. Now, what about adding one that is like a brief? So I'm going to click on add. And how about
ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
What do you think?
So everyone, we refer to what Michelle is doing right now as a voice brief. And the reason we call it a voice brief is because we're shortening what we say, right?
Right.
So even though we might want it to write, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we don't want to have to say, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. So Michelle's writing Germac, as that would be her short. Like some people use ledger. It's made up. It's completely made up. It's not a word. And as long as it works, then it's fine. So she's going to train her Germac now. And you can create these as much as you like, but there are some rules you need to follow. Right, Michelle? We can't have more than 99 characters, including spaces.
Right. And there cannot be two spaces together, like not period, space, space. It would have to be period, space.
So we refer to these again as voice briefs, and it's just got a longer written form and a shorter spoken form. That's generally what we call a voice brief. And a voice brief is different from a voice stroke in that a voice stroke has a third element, and that is a voice stroke has a file that we have created that might be a jury charge. It might be the calling and swearing of a witness. Perhaps there is a specific way that you all swear in the witness. Here in the States, they do it many, many different ways. But oftentimes it will be whereupon, comma, new line, centered the name of the witness, comma, new line, after having been first duly sworn, was examined and testified as follows, colon, new line, Q, period, tab. So all of that could be in a voice stroke file. And when we do voice strokes, can you see this behind me? Can you read it? Not really. Let me see if I can. So, can you read it now? No.
It's too small.
Too small. Okay. Let's see. I don't want to start playing.
Yes, we see it up.
Well, it's too small for me, so maybe I can do something on my end.
Well, it's probably too small for everybody. So the plus the I think that the sun is not helping. Let's see if that's better. Not really. Okay, so a voice stroke has an include file that may contain formatting. What do I mean by that? Look at what Michelle has on the screen. The court, that is indented 10 spaces. There's a new line, indent, plus a tab. Then it says, guys, comma, I'm going to ask you to use your loud, clear voice. Period. My court reporter is recording, comma, and we need to pick it up audibly. That is a formatted statement. Whereas, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is not formatted at all. It just starts from the margin, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I would consider it formatted if there was a tab before or an indent before. That is what I mean by formatting. So the include file may contain formatting. It may contain replacement fields. Replacement fields are like the witness's name or the attorney's name or the date. And it may be multiple pages long. What do I mean by that? Here in the US, we call it a jury charge. And that is when the jury, both the prosecution and the defense have made their case, and now the court, the judge is going to say, okay, to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, he's going to say, now listen, here you have the choice to call this person guilty of first-degree murder or guilty of second-degree murder, with these exceptions, blah, blah, blah. And then he's going to read all of what is included with that crime, so that they have to decide if first-degree murder fits or if second-degree murder fits. Well, that's called a jury charge. They're telling the jury, this is what you have to choose from. These are your options. And they can be very, very long. They can be pages long. And so instead of you dictating that every time it comes up, you can literally use a voice stroke, which will drop in up to pages of text, all formatted the way it's supposed to be formatted, without you having to do any additional work. That is cool beans. And it saves you time, if that is your situation, ladies and gentlemen, because I don't know if you have jury charges. You know that. You've seen the transcript. Hopefully by now you've seen what the transcript looks like. And so you know what repetitive things are going to happen. And the more you start transcribing and literally seeing and saying all of these things that you hear, you will be the best person to say, well, this is the 5th time I have dictated this. And it is always the exact same. Right there. That should tell you I need to make a voice stroke. Now, Michelle, I'm going to let you show them how to do it again.
Okay, so let me close out of this. Actually,
good place to copy from.
yes. So you would take a transcript and copy out what you want to be part of that include file. This is a pretty long one, and this was a Boykin plea. So I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to copy it. And so I'm going to go to transcriptionist. Okay. First, part 1 is creating the include file. And to do that, you open transcriptionist and you go to view include directory setup. And I'm sorry about the hammering in the background. I have some people working outside, so I'm sorry if that's bothersome.
I don't even hear that.
Oh, well, if you see me like jerk every once in a while, I was like, who's here and who's banging on my house? So here we are. This is the include directory setup, and we're going to click on the first button that's new. Here we'll be prompted to name the file. When you're using VoiceStrokes, the files have to start with the word auto. And it's important that when you're creating include files, you have a notebook next to you, because you need to write down the name of the file exactly as it is, because for the next step, you have to have that information. So I'm going to call this auto, and I tend to put all uppercase because it's important, the case, when you're creating the voice stroke in Dragon. So I'm lazy and I just want to put everything uppercase because it's easier to remember for me. So I'll do auto -Boykin, and I'm going to do LA only because to remind myself this was from the girl in New Iberia, not far from here. So I'm going to click on create, and it's going to put the file in the list, and I'm going to click on open. And let me go back to why the word auto has to be at the beginning. Auto is how SpeechCat knows that it's a voice stroke. So whenever you're creating one, it has to have that in the name. Now, When you go to open up the file, it prompts you to choose the style. And you might say, why is that important? It is important because of the replacement fields that the style has. So let's say we'll do criminal matter. And I'm going to click on OK. It's going to open up a document, and I'm going to do Control V to put the text that I just copied in here. So now that I have all of this text in here, I am going to see if I'm just going to check the replacement fields, and yes, okay. So here where I have defendant with the carets, I'm going to highlight this because I want transcriptionists to put the name that I typed into the job field, the job screen. So I'm going to go to Insert, Case Fields, and Defendant. And when it pulls it in, if I've entered that information in my job screen, the name will be automatically populated for me. Insert, Case Fields, Defendant. Now, there may be some things here, see, that are not. So the defendant's address is not in the replacement fields. So I will leave the address, I will leave the age, the last four of the social, the grade, because those things are not on the replacement field. So here, the defense attorney, let's see if that information is in there. Okay.
That would be a speaker, right?
This would be attorney for the defendant.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And I want you to notice this court reporter, she put carets. And what she does when she's producing the transcript, she'll do find caret, and then she'll put in and she'll listen to the audio. So she knows that's where she has to put in information. But the information there is it's explanatory so that she knows what needs to go there. And of course, when you're scoping, you're going to be listening to the audio as well. So if the judge varies at all from what she typically says, you can change the word or add a word to that. And the whole point of this is you want to make this as close to being accurate, so the least changes you have to make at the end. So I'm done. I'm going to click on Save. Oh, one thing I did forget to check. I need to have an extra line before this so that it puts it on a new line. And we want to have an extra line at the end, which we do. So there's a new line after it. So I'm going to save this. And so now we have the file made, and it's called, and I did a bad thing. I didn't write it down, so I'm going to do that now. Okay. So I'm going to close out of this. And I'm going to say yes to save my changes. And this time I'm going to actually go to Scratchpad. I don't know if any of you have used this yet, but it's the very last button on the button bar in Transcriptionist. This will take you to Dragon. Well, it's going to take you into Scratchpad, which is a utility that is just designed for you to go and do work in Dragon within Transcriptionist without having to open Dragon by itself. Okay, so I'm going to open my user profile. And you'll notice at the bottom, it's letting me know what's going on. So I just have to wait for it to be ready. Okay. Now I'll go to speech. and vocabulary editor. And like I said, I like to see my custom words when I'm adding. Don't ask me why. I'm just kind of weird that way. So I click on add. And here's the important part. What we're going to do is we're going to type in asterisk, the name of the file as we created it, auto-boykin-la is what I named it. And then I'm going to put .rtf, which is the file extension of the file, and then another asterisk. So I'm going to put in the name with a .rtf. So whatever your name is, .rtf, and it has to have asterisk both at the beginning and the end of it. And I'm going to call this Auto Boykin. We'll try it. So I'm going to click on add. I, of course, want to do the trained pronunciation. Auto Boykin. Auto Boykin. Auto Boykin. I'll save it, close. I'll go to speech and save user, save speech files. If I don't save speech files and I exit, the word will be gone. Then I'm going to turn this on. Auto Boykin. Auto Boykin. Auto Boykin. Germac. What was it? Ay, ay, ay. Ah, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. There we go. Okay. So I want you to notice that the Auto Boykin came up with the asterisk around it here. That's because in Scratchpad, you're going to see what Dragon sees. Let me show you. We talked about Dragon text earlier. QCO, ACO, SPI1, SPI2, SPI3, SPI4, SPI5, Shazam. Okay, so this is in Dragon language. That's what Scratchpad does. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close out of this. This tells me that my markers, that the Auto Boykin is working. So I'm going to close out of this. I'm going to create a new job. Did you see where it went, Adria?
I did, all the way to the bottom.
And look at the date on it.
I noticed that. What happened there?
Moi, je connais pas. I don't know. Let's see.
What version are you on? Okay, I made a note.
Okay. Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to double click on the job because remember I was using Defendant. Oh, I didn't use a style, and that may be why.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the reason I want to do this, I want to type in the defendant's name. I'm going to call him John Brown. And the other thing that I used was attorney for the defendant. And I'm going to call this Mr. Sanchez. Okay. Well, okay. You had a question, Adria?
No.
Okay. Okay, now I'm going to go into dictate.
Michelle, go ahead and exit all the way out of transcriptionist.
And what I did was because I was getting that error message that there was a problem opening the engine. When I get that message, I like to open up Dragon to see if there's any error messages that will pop up that might prevent it from working with transcriptionists.
Michelle, before you go into the job, would you acquire an audio file so that we can also show them how to set up their foot pedal?
Sorry about that, y'all. So I'm going to create a new job. I'm going to call this
go with Wednesday, March 3rd, 2020. March 11th. I said March 3rd. Wishful thinking.
Mhm. March 3rd, that's Logan's birthday.
Yes, your little baby boy. Hey, buddy. How you doing? How you doing? Have you been playing outside? Have you been playing outside?
Okay, so I am acquiring the file to that job, the audio.
Go do the fingers, make those fingers smoke if you can, so they can hear that.
Oh,
Do all files. No.
here's one at 260. How about that?
Yeah. What is the problem?
Oh, okay. You know what it is? They're on,
Oh, they're not local?
right.
Can you right click and go to local?
Let's see.
That's all you have to do is
Oh,
smart sync. Yeah, there you go.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So now I'm going to go into dictate. Gosh, it's almost 11 o'clock.
I know. Time flies when you're having fun. Is that where you did the voice stroke?
Hmm?
Is that the user you did the voice stroke in?
Yes. Okay. Do you want me to show them that before I do anything else?
Sure.
Otto Boykin,
Whoop, whoop. Love
Jermac, ay, ay, ay.
it.
Now, the fact that this is single spaced is
Something you would need to.
fix in the file.
Right.
Okay. So that was the voice stroke. I said Otto Boykin, and it brought all of this in. And look, it put John Smith's name everywhere that,
Everywhere case defendant was, I believe.
correct. And let's see, there was a place where the defendant attorney was. Anyway, it should have put,
That would have replaced that.
yes. Okay. So now we'll set up the foot pedal. Does everyone have their foot pedals plugged in?
So your foot pedal just needs to be plugged into your computer. Once you all have your foot pedal plugged into your computer, if you would go into transcriptionist, it doesn't matter what job you open up, just get into the dictate screen if you would. And we'll give you time to do that. Y'all let me know if we can go on.
I had to plug mine in.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, I did that this morning myself.
Ain't demonstrated if it's not plugged in.
So true, so true. And what I want you to notice is that once you're in the dictate screen, we have two great icons for the foot pedal that are up over here in the top right corner of the dictate screen. Well, it's pretty much centered where Michelle is because she's got the screen maximized. And over on the left, you're only going to see what Michelle is seeing on the left if you've acquired an audio file to the job.
If there's no audio, the
There's
foot
nothing
pedal
there.
might be visible for them.
Yeah, the foot pedal won't play. So, do you guys remember how Michelle did that? How she acquired the audio? Or would you like us to walk through that again?
Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Leary remembered. Good job, Leary.
So I'll start a new job and I'll call this foot pedal. Adria, I think that problem I had was because I didn't have any case selected because the other ones seemed to be going in the right order.
Fantastic.
Okay. So I'm going to call it foot pedal setup. And I'm going to click on acquire.
Now, you're going to have audio on your computer, possibly in a different place. But we have audio on our computers. So if you would go to wherever you have an audio file that you can grab, Michelle's going to path to where she has an audio file. And she's going to click on open. Now, wait, before you do that, Michelle, I want you to all notice that when she pathed, she had to go ahead and over on the right-hand side, she had to select sound files so that she could see sound files. And we're going to see MP3s, WAV, WMA. What else, Mitch?
MPEGs.
MPEG.
And even movie files.
Yeah. So then you click on open, and that will bring in that audio and attach it to that job.
Now, didn't we have some audio that we put on their computers?
I think we did.
Let me see.
I think we put almost everything under my documents.
Okay.
I think, did you find where we put it?
No.
Were you all able to find audio in your hard drive or not? Yes? No? Yes? Okay. I think everyone found audio.
Okay, great. And then it'll tell you that it acquired the file. And then we go to highlight that, make sure the job is highlighted, and go to dictate.
Okay. So you've got an audio file so you can see your foot pedal icons over on the right. One has a little lightning bolt. One has a little screwdriver. We want to click on the one with the screwdriver. And right at the top, we want to click on the drop down next to type. And we want to select the IN USB 1. Okay. Now, we do not use a COM port, so don't worry about that. That should have been grayed out. So pedal 1 is the left pedal. Pedal 2 is the right pedal. Pedal 3 is the center pedal. And that's our primary pedal, right? So let's go down to pedal 3 first. On the down, which means when you push your foot down, we want it to play. When you release, you want it to pause with back step, which means it's going to go back about 3 seconds so you can hear those last few words again. So that's the setting for pedal 3. Let's go back to pedal 1 now. On the left, down should be step back, which is rewind. Step back equals rewind. And on the up, we usually leave it as do nothing. Now on pedal 3, on pedal 2, which is the right pedal, you can set it to step forward, which is fast forward. And then on the up, we do nothing. Now, if you want, you can set it to, once it finishes fast forwarding, if you release, you can set it to play. But most people like the up on 1 and 2 left and right pedals as do nothing. And they only want it to play when they have their foot down on the pedal. So once you have those things selected, please click on apply.
I want to say one thing before we exit. I want
Yes.
you to notice here on the left side where it says step, every notch here is equivalent to 1 second. So by default, it's going to step back 4 seconds and step forward 4 seconds. If you wanted to change that and have it go back farther, you can simply change this setting here. Okay?
That's good stuff. Now, also, while you're still in the foot pedal setting, it probably has bounced to the back for you there. Once you click on apply, if you push your foot pedal down, because
No, but if you look down here in the status,
yeah, it's telling
It
you
is.
there what's happening.
right.
I noticed that. I guess it's not doing that anymore. It used to actually show you up or down, but I guess it's not doing that anymore. So you can do apply and OK, and then you should see foot pedal is on.
And also, if you look in the button bar, the foot pedal with the lightning indicating that it's on is circled with the orange box, letting you know that it is in fact on. And now, if I do this, I guess that wasn't one of the fast dictations.
No, I can hear it though.
Okay.
So good. So any questions about how to set up that foot pedal?